School resource officers are sworn law enforcement officers who are responsible for providing security and crime prevention services in a school environment. SROs have been around since 1953, where the first one was put in the Michigan community. The first school resource officer did not wear uniforms because they wanted to show the relationship that the officers have with the community. This goal was seen and developed by the Fresno Police Department located in California and is still one of the major goals of the SROs today. The community resource officers must also be able and willing to effectively communicate with parents or guardians, assist in fights or issues evolving around misconduct, and finally they should be able to give presentations to the group of students when necessary. With that defining what a school resource officer is and giving you some history behind it, let me tell you some reasons why I believe that school resource officers should be included in our community, in our schools and communities around the nation. The first thing is that school resource officers are not working or walking pointlessly around that specific school because they want to hurt your child. They are there because most of those officers have kids and families like you and the community and just want to serve their city or county, protect those kids as if they were their own, and be there for them in times of need. Some of these students go to school each day not knowing who to look up to or not having a good role model or parental figure within their life. One of the many great things about SROs is that they spend a lot of time around the school, and through that, if you get a good SRO officer, they can connect with those kids and be a good role model that child or group of children desperately needs in their lives, and through that may save many lives itself. Good resource officers are needed desperately and should be chosen carefully when hired as well. In our crisis intervention class, for example, we had a South Point High School resource officer come in and talk about his job and what he thought about it. This officer went on to talk about different sporting events that he had went to of children that had gone to that school. He also talked about weddings he was asked to host and did because students had looked up to him and loved and connected with him so well when they had went to that school. This resource officer talked about giving out his number to students, telling them to call them, and that he would drop anything he was doing and help them right away. With one girl once calling him in the middle of the night and him being there for her. The most important thing that this officer said that is crucial to my decision of why we should have resource officers in our school is that first of all, he said he loved his job, and second, that he would lay down his life for every student in that school because he looks at them as if they were all his kids. I sat in my seat thinking about this for a second. This man is sort of like me with me going to the military and willing to lay down my life for my country I love. He, on the other hand, is willing to lay down his life for the protection of students. Some of these students he doesn't even know, but the fact that this officer stands up for what he believes in and loves these kids so much that he would lay down his own life for them and to be safe and loves what he does is magnificent. Just by that, why a person would not want a resource officer in their child's school protecting and being there for them is beyond me. The thing about it is that this resource officer is one of the many officers out there that are giving out numbers, always there for their children, serve as role models, and feel the exact same way as South Point's resource officer. The second reason behind why I support having resource officers is the amount of violence, whether it be gangs or on recent occasions, school shootings perhaps. It is unfortunate that these tragic events take place in our schools where our daughters, sons, brothers, sisters, friends, or other family members may go to school at. These are events that people think their child will never be exposed to, with some parents even thinking with putting their children in a private school they will be away from all that. That is definitely not true. With growing up in public schools, I've personally known worse kids coming from private schools than that of a public. You can't keep your child in a bubble away from the negative society has to offer because then they will not know how to react when they finally go out and live on their own and are finally exposed to all of these new drugs, gangs, sex, violence, etc. that your child has never been exposed to. You have resource officers who try to take care of most of the drugs in the school and violence, but they cannot completely get rid of all of it. In the end, it is your child's decision, and if you raised him right, that's all you can do. That and support his positive goals and decisions in life. With that being said, the gang violence was not that big at my school from what I noticed. There were people I saw that I knew that were in gangs for the most part stayed to themselves though, in a group and didn't cause a big scene. Fights would break out every now and then, and sometimes other gang members would join, but that was rare, with some schools being worse than others. The school resource officer is then needed if this does take place because they can break it up as quickly as possible so that everybody's safety is preserved and so that students can get the education they came for and get the distractions and people there for other reasons out. The resource officers are needed too because if a gang member happens to have a weapon or a gunman walks onto campus, what would a principal do other than call the police while the gunman is firing away? In my opinion, I would want a resource officer at my school or my brother's school like South Point's resource officer who looks at the school kids as his kids and will protect them with his life. In this day and time, shootings and events happen so quickly that there always needs to be a resource officer or any officer on duty patrolling the schools for that matter because the police and SWAT can only show up so fast, and by that time they show up, most of the damage and catastrophe has ended or it is reaching its end. If you had a resource officer patrolling the school at the time, he may could end this situation quickly and save many innocent lives before backup arrives. Through this act, you may get to see something as little to as much as your child smile as they walk across the stage smiling with joy as the principal hands them their diploma while they are dressed in their cap and gown. You get to see that same for college and that woman he falls in love with and ends up marrying, the daughter that comes after, and the precious touch and smile of a grandbaby to just pretend that you were young again and it could all just happen again. You still will be able to get together on Sundays for church and dinner, which is lunch according to my mama. All these memories can be cherished, and with the help of a school resource officer, being a good role model and protecting the students from violence and gangs will help you get your child the education, the protection they need in school. In conclusion, resource officers are highly needed in schools and are a big influence to our families and kids attending school as of now and in the future. The officers take an oath to protect these kids and know the consequences of taking this job and putting their life on the line for it. They know that they could never come home to their wives and children, but they stand up for what they believe in and put their life on the line every day for public and school safety to get your kid home safe. I know if I ever had a kid and send my kid off to school, I know with all the shootings and violence in the school that I want somebody as good as South Point's resource officer there to protect my child and serve as a good role model when I can't be there to do so. These are the reasons why I believe that schools should have resource officers.